Just imagine if you'd never heard of As ever, and you find yourself on that page, and you're scrolling, and you're like trying to find something to buy. What would you buy? What? The junky old teas? The lame flavors? The dry biscuits? The watery jam? The honey that's never stocked? I mean, what? What would you buy? You wouldn't want any of that junk. Not one of you. Not one of you would be like, oh, wow, this looks really intriguing. What is this? I couldn't find this anywhere. Speaking of Harry and Meghan, they have had a terrible week, okay? We already know that they are terrible and lame. That doesn't come as any surprise to us. This is the thing that had bothered me for a while. My fear was that they were going to eventually gain enough momentum that they would find themselves sitting, nice and pretty. Meghan, with her Netflix show, with her podcast, with her lifestyle brand, as she says, with all of her liquid jams and her dried flowers and her tropical rosé, I figured that maybe that she'd found herself a little niche. Maybe she was on the rise. But slowly, piece by piece, things are beginning to be dismantled. At this point, she has dropped the podcast, as we've covered before, because, as she says, she just doesn't want to be spread too thin. The only thing she wants spread thin is jam. It's her jam on bread. Which, of course, never made any sense to any of us. But that was her, little catchy phrase. The only thing I want spread thin is my jam. She'd practice that one in front of the mirror before she actually said it. Thought she was so clever. But the podcast is no more. Just like her other podcast, the Archetypes podcast, is no more. So that little piece fell out. And then, once again, she's decided to sell all of her jams and biscuits. And there wasn't enough for anybody. So now people are just they're super sick of that. And she was having to give discounts and, promise, food and stuff to other people because, oh my gosh, you ordered and you didn't get it. And, all this. Right. So that's not going well for her. Little scheme to not stock enough so that she could look like she sold out. People are getting tired of that. Even though she spoke about it and was saying, I don't want people to be fatigued by interacting with my stuff. I'm going to make sure I stock enough this time. But we all knew she wouldn't because she loved the feeling of being able to tell people that she sold out in 45 minutes. Okay. So that wasn't going well for her. But she continued to talk about her partner with her lifestyle brand. And of course, her partner was Netflix. They had made the show with Love Meghan. And then her little lifestyle brand, As Ever, which was connected to that, was sort of like this little thing that was working hand in hand. But Netflix is like, we're done. Because Meghan's show, this show that she acted like no one could get enough of, and quite frankly, everyone was talking about, had hit at the 383rd spot on the Netflix ranking. I didn't even know there were that many shows on Netflix. What is the bottom number? 390? I mean, I can't imagine that there's that many shows. But of all of them, to go all the way down that far on the list, I mean, of course she's no longer a contender for them to be paying out $100,000 deals to. They did not deliver, by any stretch of the imagination, on the Harry and Meghan documentary, which is the only reason that Netflix retained them in the first place, because they thought they were going to get some dirt. How could they even think that after that stupid Oprah interview?
Did you make Kate cry?
No.
So where did that come from?
Maybe they thought that they would have the interviewers who were going to really get in there and get Meghan and Harry to open up. But it was so lame and they had so little footage and they got nothing. They had to stuff the documentary with multiple episodes full of fluff and stupidity because there just wasn't enough for Harry and Meghan to talk about. We got so many moments of talking to other people about things like slavery and colonialism and all kinds of garbage that really didn't pertain to the story whatsoever. They wanted it to. They wanted you to think there was a connection. They worked so hard for you to think that there was a connection. But because Harry and Meghan never actually experienced any kind of racism, there really was no context for that conversation. Especially when Harry comes out and undermines it and says, that thing we said about Meghan said someone said something racist. That never happened. And, honestly, I mean, you all say Meghan said something, but we never said anything like that. It's just one of those things people are completely misinterpreting everything we do. They just want to hate us so much. They put words in our mouth, but we never said that there was anything racist that had ever happened to us. Never, ever. we haven't experienced racism with my family, so I don't really know what you're talking about. But that's a really problematic stance for Harry to take now, because Netflix had committed so much of the documentary to the racism that is underpinning the entire royal family, so they say. So it was a junk documentary. There was nothing to talk about, nothing was revealed, and there was a little bit of complaining on Harry and Meghan's part, and, that ridiculous bow that she looked dumb and Harry looked horrified, and, that was their biggest moment. So that fell flat. Then Meghan makes a show that was, somebody's Pinterest board and nothing more. And it was just her with her dumb little ideas. We didn't learn any good recipes. We saw 150,000 different ways to arrange fruit and veg, but there was nothing on that show that was super helpful about how to live this bountiful life that she claims you can live. And everything that she says was so dumb and pathetic and cliche. She was awkward. The show was awkward. She had to develop a relationship with the director because she had no presence on screen. So she had to talk to somebody. Everything about that was pathetic. Now, there will be another season because they've already filmed it, but it's not because they've made new content with Meghan. So that piece has fallen out. And without Netflix, I don't know how much longer she can have her As Ever brand continue to go on, because As Ever was really finger locked with that show. That show is where she promoted her stupid flour sprinkles, her dumb teas, her little silly biscuits and crepes. That's where she showed you why you needed these products. It was all just advertising for her As Ever brand. As we know, branding ain't the thing over at As Ever. They don't know what they're doing. Okay, we talked about that last week, about the dumb packaging and the labels on her wine bottles. I mean, that is some trash. Nobody would choose that bottle of wine based completely on just how they look. Because you don't know what wine tastes like. Every wine is so different. If you get a rosé, it doesn't mean it's going to taste like the last rosé you had. So like, how are you supposed to know? And for those of us who are ignorant beyond belief when it comes to wine, me, I always choose based on which of these bottles, if they're basically in the same price range, which of these bottles is more appealing to me visually. I guess I'll go with that one. Who would pick the As Ever brand? Who? The crooked lettering, the enormous amount of white space, the dullness of it, it just looks like that's going to be a bad experience, right? So advertising, packaging, it's not her deal. Netflix was how she was going to sell her goods, and now they don't want it. So what's she going to do? Who's going to market this junk? Not her and her Instagram page, right? She can't even manage to pick an apricot the right way off of a ripe tree. Okay, so she's not the one. So her brand's just going to crumble. The only thing they've ever had any success with is Harry's book Spare. And even that, the ghostwriter fell out. 3/4 of the way through the work was like, I can't do it. And you can tell the difference in the book. And we're all pretty sure Meghan took up the last quarter of that, okay? The book's ridiculous, as we've talked about a lot on this channel. But Harry's going to have to write another book, or she's going to have to write another book. And honestly, that's the only thing I can imagine that they would have any hope in elevating and boosting themselves out of this depression they're finding themselves in. No more podcasts. They can't podcast. They don't know how. It sucks every time they try. No more Netflix. And I do not understand how she's going to keep her junky little business going. It's not selling anything anybody wants. It literally isn't. I mean, just imagine if you'd never heard of As Ever and you find yourself on that page and you're scrolling and you're like trying to find something to buy. What would you buy? What? The junky old teas? The lame flavors? The dry biscuits? The watery jam? The honey that's never stocked? I mean, what? What would you buy? You wouldn't want any of that junk. Not one of you. Not one of you would be like, oh, wow, this looks really intriguing. What is this? I couldn't find this anywhere. The flour sprinkles? I mean, why would nobody wants any of that junk. Not one person wants it. So I just don't understand, unless they write another book, unless Meghan decides to write a book. And by the way, if Meghan wrote a book, we'd be all up on that business. They're going to have to write another book. But the thing is that Harry is right now trying to build relationships back with his dad. You guys know a couple weeks ago, the palace aides and Harry's people had a meeting of the minds. I don't know how serious they were about it. I don't know if it was like, let's meet to talk about how Harry can get back in the good graces of his father. I don't know if it was a meeting in which his father's like, you know what, my health isn't the best, and I'd really like not to feel like things are a mess with my family. I don't know if it was a thing of like, hey, you don't seem to know the King's Diary, and sometimes you seem to do things that are at odds with what we're trying to do. Let's sync our calendars a little bit better so we're not taking away from each other. I don't know what the meeting was. I don't think there's anybody ready to see that reconciliation except for maybe the very people in the party. Except for maybe King Charles wanting to fix his relationship with his son, just because, look, none of us know how long we have. And particularly when you're in poor health, you would want to make sure you dotted your I's and cross your T's. I mean, you would. I would. And I do think it's kind of jacked up that there's so many people being like, he shouldn't forgive. That's his prerogative. You're not looking at limited days, okay? And if you were, you might say, I want to make sure that things are right with my son, just because I need to know that I made every effort. So we don't know what that meeting was about. What we do know, though, is that I don't think Harry's in a position to want to write another book because he himself says the things I said in that book are going to be very hard for my family to get over. We know it, Harry. Our question is, how come you are only now just coming to the conclusion that that might have been a mistake? He had just so many voices in his ear when he wrote that book that he thought he could get away with it. All right. But now he's seemingly regretful of having gone after some of the family members in such an aggressive and strange way. The only person left to write a book is Meghan, and she can't be honest enough to write a book. What is she going to say? She can't say anything truthful. If she had, they wouldn't be in this situation in the first place, because her podcast would have been a lot more interesting, and her Netflix show would have been a lot more interesting, and the documentary would have been a lot more interesting. The problem with her is she continues to think that she just needs to play her cards close to the chest and people are going to still be interested. We were hardly interested in the beginning, okay? And now that you won't tell us a damn thing, why in the world am I still showing up? Okay? There's nothing real about her. Harry's over there floundering all over the place. He doesn't know which way to turn. She's over there making poor decision after poor decision after poor decision, like she's only got half a brain. I mean, I don't understand how these two are going to manage. And without Netflix, what are they going to do? Also, they also lost Spotify a while back. It's like there's nobody who wants to do business with them. They can't keep staff. They can't keep their business relationships. They clearly have no idea what they're doing in the realm of charity. The Archwell Foundation is just a laughingstock. So I don't know what they think that they're going to do with their time. They will write another book. We will see another book. It's not like an if question. It's not like, will they? I don't know. If this happens, maybe it's not. They will write another book. I just don't know which one of them will do it. I mean, even at a certain point, they were trying to make a movie. But you guys, even that movie, like at this point, they were saying that they wanted to make a movie called Meet Me at the Lake, which I think is based off of a book. No director, no cast. Still talking about how they want to make this movie. But how? No one will work with you. They just have such a pathetic reputation that at this point, the only thing Harry really can do is crawl back on his hands and knees like the prodigal son and just hope his dad will take him in. He's literally been over there eating husks with the pigs. And, maybe he's come to himself. Maybe he's come to his senses. Maybe he's already deciding what speeches he's going to make. And he can only hope that his father will be like the dad in the story, who will see his son coming from a far way off and already begin to prepare the fatted calf. But I don't know if that'll be the case. All I know is he better not bring one of the pigs back with him, because I can tell you right now, no one's opening their arms to Meghan.